Welcome to Season 2 of On The Spot. At On The Spot, we discuss the issues.
So last week, we talked about taxation as we tried to understand why people should pay taxes and their expectations. Well, thanks to my guests, Alfred Akibabets and Dr. Philip Kagbo, for breaking it down for us. We had a number of feedbacks and questions, many of them centered on customs. Well, this is not surprising as we are an import-driven nation where cost of importation heavily impacts cost of goods and by extension, cost of living. So I thought we should have an expert join in the discussion so that you and I can better understand the tax system on imports. Well, Kpana Conteh is the Assistant Commissioner, Customs Operations at the National Revenue Authority, NRA. Well, he has worked in the Customs Department for over 17 years, starting out as a collector in the institution. Well, he joins me on the show. Welcome to the show, Kpana. Thanks for joining me here on the spot. With me, Stella Bangura.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yes. So last week, we, just like I mentioned in the intro, we had a very engaging conversation with my guest, and we were talking about taxes. And a lot of the conversation, or a lot of the feedbacks that we got, was centered around customs, which is not surprising because everybody, one way or the other, directly and indirectly, is affected by, whatever goes on at the customs, department and the customs office in itself in general, because we're import driven. And, that means that, cost of bringing goods into Sierra Leone would definitely have an impact on the cost of goods out there on the street. First of all, take us through on, you've been in the Customs Department now for 17 years. What has been the reforms that has been done? We're right now in, this year. What's the reforms that's been done so far from when you started out 17 years in the department?
Thank you very much. Of course, there have been several reforms. But as you said, it's not surprising that people have to complain about cost of clearing and the port and so on. We are very aware of that as a department, as an institution, as personnel. So we've been trying very much to see what we can do to ease that problem. By the way, doing business across border is a key indicator for every nation. Okay, so because of that, we have to reform. As I usually tell people, customs, you are only fine when the public is okay. And as you said, it directly impacts on the people, all of the reforms. So there are several we've done. First of all, we tried in 2018. When I joined the department, everything was just paper. So you have paper all around. Where manually we'll sit and do our calculations. Even the collection of statistics was done manually. So what we did in 2010 was to introduce Asikuda, that we looked at some of our processes. And so, like for example, 4 main processes involving custom clearance, which has to do with the payment of duty, the assessment, revenue accounting, and partly the post clearance. We are all taken on board. So, but with that particular reform at that time, you only put in your data. So what was actually guaranteed at that particular time was data reliability.
Right.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's been an advancement now.
Yeah, there have been an advancement.
So what now does that capture?
Now with the Asikuda world, we have the platform to add on several processes, and that is what we are doing. And that project will come to an end in September this year. Now with the Asikuda world is web-based. So we'll try to see to it that everybody can be connected wherever you are, as long as there's internet and you can do business with custom. So you have too many people now coming on board, and then we're also trying to interface with other agencies. Okay, because the whole vision here is to make the process paperless, so that people will not be moving with paper from one point to another. So what is happening with the Asikura award is that once the declaration is being made, okay, you can go, you self-assess yourself, you go to the bank, do your payment, and at the type of time of payment, there's going to be an auto selection by the system itself, and allocate those declarations to customs. So you really do not have that urge of going to customs, except if there are problems, or even with that. And at a particular point in time, when these declarations are being processed in the system, you get a real-time information. As long as your TIN is in the system, you, the importer, you get real-time information about when assessment is being done, payment being done, and a whole lot of things. When clearance, when your goods are ready for inspection, and your agent will be there to represent you as well. So we are trying really to hook onto other systems. Like presently, we are looking at the pre-clearance, that is activities before you actually get to customs, to NRA, and then we are also looking at the post-release, when custom releases the good to you, because you still have other clearance formalities.
Okay.
That has to do with that.
So a lot of people import into Sierra Leone, and there's those as well who do want to import. It could be of any quantity or magnitude. What is, just simplify it for people, what's the process in getting your goods into Sierra Leone and clearing it?
Now, the processes are there, okay? And as I've said, the processes within Sierra Leone is actually could be divided into 3 main stages. The first, what we call the pre-clearance, that is actually before your goods get to Sierra Leone. And that is why too many people really miss out. Because for most people, they only start the whole process when the goods are here. But the system is so designed such that you start all other activities, particularly some activities before your goods get there, so that it will not be very
what sort of activity?
Now, the activities are these. First of all, the bill of lading. The bill of lading is the shipping document that will inform you, your shippers out there will send to you that your goods have been loaded on board the ship and they are on their way to your point of destination, I mean your country. Okay, so that is the information. That's the first information given to you. And even before the goods are being shipped, if you have an agent doing the procurement on your behalf, or if you are doing it yourself, you must have the commercial invoice and then the packing list. And so those are the only 3 documents you need initially to giving your freight cost. If it is prepaid, you must have had all of this information, your commercial documents in general. So you are expected to start the whole process at that particular point.
And then you move to the next stage.
Even before the goods get to that. So when you get that one, if you are a regular importer, we are sure you must have been registered with NRA. So you have your TIN number, taxpayer's identification number. But if that's your first time, we expect you to even start that one. Because when you go to register for your TIN number, we are not going to ask where are your goods. Because as long as you are doing business and you're a taxpayer in Sierra Leone, you're supposed to have it. So even whether you are involved in importation or not, you're supposed to have a TIN number. So as long as you have a TIN number, you now engage. Because in Sierra Leone, there's an agreement. Because of capacity, mostly, with customs when it comes to verification of values. Most countries, and as in the case of ours, we have an independent institution, which we call the DI colonies, the Destination Inspection. Here in Sierra Leone is presently ITS, Integrated Trade Services. So that is why you have that stage. So you submit this document to them, where they do independent verification of your values,
your goods,
your quantity, your classification.
So once that evaluation is done, what then happens next?
Now, when that valuation is done, when that one is done, you can go ahead and make your declaration. Because at the end of it all, when it's done, they give you what we call the clean report of findings, which is called here the certificate of classification and valuation certificate. Okay, when that is given to you, you can now access your system and do declaration. But that you do that one through a clear and forwarding agent.
Right.
Because legally, because the assumption here is that these people are as a professional as custom officer, so they know the rules of the game. So that is why you hire them to do the declaration.
And what stage is this called? Because you've got the pre.
These are all pre. They are pre,
right?
Because you are still working away from customs. You are working, particularly when it comes to doing the declaration, you are working within the custom management system, the ASICUDA. Okay, you have access to it.
Yeah.
But still, those declarations, what we call declarations, have still not been assigned to customs.
So when it then comes to customs, what's the process?
Yeah. Now, when it comes to customs, the processes, all of the processes are automated. Okay. So now, once you do your payment, mind you, the bank is also connected to the customs system. The shipping agencies, they are also connected to the customs system. By the way, you cannot do declaration. Let me make this one out. You cannot make declaration in the customs system if the shipping agencies, they haven't registered the cargo manifest.
Right.
Okay? So which means, and in Sierra Leone, the law is 48 hours. They are supposed to register the manifest 48 hours so that there will be still this pre-clearance. Because we had a situation where people are complaining that, the manifest has not been registered, so I cannot make my declaration. So we went back and then we made some amendment to the law, to the customs law, to allow them to register manifest 48 hours. So it means as long as you are sure your vessel is coming straight to Freetown, even when it's at the high sea, and you have your manifest, your agent can electronically register those cargo. But all of these things are practically working that way is another thing. Because if you go to the shipping company, they might have their own reasons. They will be saying, that ship has to come through Monrovia. It has to come through, and that is not the final manifest, so we cannot register. But that is a situation, some of the challenges. But if these challenges are surmounted, we expect that people register everything, do their payment, and wait for the arrival of the goods. Now, so when you get to the customs, once you've made the payment, the system allocates it to different units in customs based on what they have on the pre-assessment. When I say self-assessment, the declaration, the system will check, calculate for you, based on some informed data in the system, it will allocate you to 4 lanes, one of the 4 lanes. Green, which means you are assumed by the system based on the information they have on you that you are a very high compliant importer, and that the goods you brought in are essentials. Apart from them being essentials, that the packing specification, so they are informing customs that at least let this one go through the system with little or no interference, and then you come after it, the post-release, which we call the post-clearance, and that means that's the work of the auditors now, who will go to your premises to do the verification.
Right.
These are all trade facilitation lanes to allow you to move. That's the same thing for the blue, but the blue is specifically for frozen, because
frozen food.
Yeah, frozen food. Because internationally, it is an obligation of each and every nation, and even customs, that you should not allow these goods to just sit out there at the port. Find a way of getting them out of the port, and then go to the premises and you follow them.
Right. Okay. I'm going to hold you there. Take a quick break. This is On the Spot, and this is Kpana from Customs Services from the National Revenue Authority. We'll be right back.
Domestic revenue mobilization is a key instrument for the government of Sierra Leone in reducing poverty, increasing financial independence, achieving middle income status, and charting the path for new directions. From supporting the free quality education, good roads, healthcare, electricity, and more.
Domestic revenue mobilization is very critical when it comes to national development.
Through the Asikoda world, we have developed beautiful management tools. We have also developed systems in which it will bring transparency and help to the importer, to the broker.
iTax is a platform for all your domestic taxes. The electronic cash register system is the game changer.
Let's support government by paying our taxes. For more information, visit the nearest NRA office or log on to our website www.nra.gov.sl.
Welcome back. For those of you just tuning in, this is On the Spot, and I have with me here Kpana still, and we are talking or getting to understand a little bit more about the operations of the Customs Department in the National Revenue Authority. So before we went on the break, you had mentioned about in terms of frozen foods, the global standard of not delaying clearance of such goods at the customs point of customs. How do you call it? Point of customs. It's not point of customs.
At the clearance point of entry.
Point of entry. Okay, great. But there have been instances where there are delays in clearing goods, going through the whole process. Even you hear people say there seem to be too many processes in clearing goods, that you bring into Sierra Leone. Really, is that the case, and why?
Yeah, the issue there with the delay has to do with, at the point of entry or during clearance, there are several other institutions mandated by government to carry out certain functions.
Right.
And in our situation, in Sierra Leone particularly at Freetown Port, the problem we face now is that why all these processes I'm talking about are automated, and most of the tasks we have as custom officers is just verify. The documentary, you just look at the screen, you don't even need to talk to anybody, and you take your action. Others are not automated, and so they do not have access to this data. The declaration, of course, declaration is just the data information. And so what happened is that within the course of clearance, you have to, at one point, break, move up, and then satisfy their own clearance conditions before you come back to customs.
So how then does this impact the customer? Because the longer your goods stay, for example, at the water key, it accrues demurrage.
Of course.
So,
and the rent.
And exactly. And in this case, if it's not the fault of the customer who's bringing in the goods, is because of all these processes and being able to fulfill the requirements in each of these processes from this, I would say maybe third-party agents or institutions. How do we process this?
I wouldn't say that categorically it's not the
in instances where it's not.
In any case, if you look at the customs law, particularly where we have the third party coming into the whole clearance, there are several laws binding that. Okay? Because if you have an agent, the rule is saying we deal with you. Okay, both of you are severally responsible for whatever happened. So that is why you as importer must follow up on what your agent is doing.
Right.
Sometimes, delay does come not really from the importer. Because, for example, if your agent is not really au fait so much with the processes.
Right.
And then way between, I mean, like for example, you've done your payment, you're giving your money to him, and then along the way, while the process is ongoing, he realizes that, look, I haven't hired a vehicle to take my container to the facilities, scanning facilities to be scanned, and there's no way customs is going to have access to that container if it has not been scanned. And so if there's delay, I mean, there's a problem out there. And because of the kind of fraudulent activities associated with clearance at the port, I mean, all of these institutions, and some of them are private institutions, okay, like the Destination Inspection Company, the ITS I spoke about, that is a private company. The shipping agency, that's a private company. The government, these are private businesses. And so they have their own way they do things, okay? Although, excuse me, they are one way or the other being regulated, I mean, but you cannot directly interfere into their businesses.
Right.
So, for example, the scanner, because of the inability and the capacity, or we do not have money to get scanners for ourselves, it is being managed by another company. And so it means when you want to take the containers there, you go to the transporter, and the transporters,
the container.
That is it. And the transporters are also private people. And so we don't have direct, control over them. And so we only sometimes like come in the forum, we negotiate, and they understand that they owe obligation.
How much of this third-party services being offered affects the final costs that importers pay in terms of duties and the likes?
You expect me to put monetary value?
No, not because obviously they would differ based on quantity but how much of that impacts the final cost?
They do affect. But for example, now I had to deal with few cases in my office. Like for example, there was somebody, okay, this lady coming for holiday from America. She was never informed when the container finally got here. And when she came, she realized that in fact from even the shippers, they've done some amendments and notification has not been sent to the shipping agent here for them to accept the amendment and give you a delivery order. By the way, when the consignment gets here, if you are not given delivery order, the terminal people will not give you your container because delivery order gives you direct legal ownership of your goods. Okay? So what is happening is that if you now have, and in some cases, to be sincere, it's very disheartening because you see somebody paying demurrage cost, paying bollory cost. Okay, these fees sometimes far away even the taxes they pay to government. And that is why some people are abandoning their containers there, so which are auctioned later. Because if you come to NRA, you do your assessment, you have to pay 20 million, and you go to the demurrage, they are saying, oh, for renting out that container to you and holding up to it for 1-2 months or what, as the case may be, you have to pay me 28 million. And you go to Bolori, you get the invoice, Bolori said, oh, it is now on the high, the rent, you are going to pay me 30 million. So what is the option here?
But let's clarify. The bulk of the cost, like the duties and basically taxes paid on imported goods or clearing of goods, the bulk of that money goes to who? Is it government or is it to the third party institutions? Because I have heard in instances where some institutions claim that the bulk of this cost goes to the government in terms of the NRA charges, and they get only like a tiny fraction.
Yeah, but they are saying this maybe because of charges on the services they render, or you have domestic at the domestic level.
Yes.
They do pay taxes as well. So pay tax for people they employ. Maybe they are defending that situation
But is that the case?
I wouldn't say that is the case, because instances I have cited here, these are extreme cases. That is a situation where you haven't been informed, you don't know whether your container is here, and then it has happened. By the way, these containers have been rented. And so if you rent these containers, they have what we call the grace period they give to you. Sometimes 5 days, sometimes 21 days, as the case may be, depending on your negotiating power with the shipping agencies. And so if you don't come and get your containers out, take your goods out of the container and return their container, because that's how they make their money as well. So they've put all of these things in place as a form of deterrent to stop you from holding up to the containers just yours truly. All what we are saying, clearance processes are time bound. Yeah. Okay? And we are so much aware of the turnaround time, because even at customs we have been evaluated on the basis of how fast we can do all of these things and then quickly get the goods out of the quay. Because at that point of entry, we are also indirectly dealing with the market access. Yes. The faster you get the goods to the market, the better it is for us, availability, and the better it will be even for you, the business person. Because you likely, in the case where demand is high, you likely make more profit than out there. So there is no way where we sit and we think deliberately there should be some interruption in all of this flow. But the whole thing here is, the truth about it is that there are other key players. And they have their mandate, and they have some are government and some are really not government.
How competitive is it shipping into Sierra Leone compared to a country like Guinea, where, you know, obviously...
Guinea is a very big economy.
Yes, it is a big economy, absolutely. But how competitive? Because you do have small economies where a number of people would rather ship to that country than to Sierra Leone, because they may say maybe it's expensive, or maybe the traffic is not, or the volume is not very high. How competitive is it shipping to Sierra Leone?
Yeah, that really is, we are not that very competitive, to be sincere, because if you talk to the shipping agent, what they'll tell you, in fact, there was this whole issue of freight marine insurance hanging over Sierra Leone that have been out there for God knows when. And all of this insurance have been levied based on certain things that should be done within the marine transport sector. Right. And it is now government is trying to address most of these things. Because first of all, these insurance companies, now if you're a vessel, you want to come to Sierra Leone, there's a whole lot of things they know about the Sierra Leone part. If those things are on the high, they raise the insurance. Right. And when they raise the insurance on the vessel, if you look at it, how much goods am I taking to Sierra Leone? Yeah. Is it really worth going to Sierra Leone? So you go for ports where, I mean, you find out, and these things do affect the cost. Yeah. Because if the vessel, because of I've got too much or too many goods lined up for Sierra Leone, and I still want to make my trip, then I have to pay higher insurance, and that one will be transformed into the freight cost. And so, doing business, of course, freight cost is one of the bases of our taxation at customs, and so definitely the ripple effect, you know that is it. Okay. So people then will prefer, I'll drop my container in Guinea and bring it to Sierra Leone. So that is why sometimes you see diversion. Yeah. But they still have to go through the customs, even if for those who decide to come in legally. Anyway. Yes, in Guinea, but that's two different situations. That's a different situation now. Now, if you drop your container in Guinea, there are two things. You now ask for a different procedure, which they call transit. Okay? And so if you drop it in Guinea, you pay the Guinean authorities transit fees. And you put that one on the truck, because unfortunately, because we all the two nations have access to seaport, you are not allowed to move with the containers because the shipping, even though that's the same shipping company, they will levy huge money, instead of a caution fee and deposit fee if you are going to move with your container into Sierra Leone.
Right.
And the common business people cannot afford that. So it means you take them out into another truck. And so when you get to the border, customs carry out the same processes, but you cannot expect that those processes out there to be as rigid as they are out there. It's no excuse, but that's the reality. Because the manpower is not as big as the manpower you have at the port. And then you might not want a chaotic situation where you have several trucks lining up to be examined. That is why in Sierra Leone, unfortunately, it has not worked. Okay, it's yet to work. Although government to government, they are still, and custom to custom, we are still discussing that one. That is why we thought of putting a scanner there, so that things will be faster, and then we'll have the correct quantity, we have the correct capacity, and people pay correctly as those who pay here.
Right.
But then there's a factor there. The factor there is the freight component, and the freight will be cheaper in Conakry as it is now. The freight cost is cheaper in Conakry because of the several charges or the insurance, the marine insurance that will affect the freight and so on. It is lower. That's the truth about it. And the charges there, and for some of these ports, they are being managed by the locals. And so when government manages this port, they have the capacity to say maintenance, get the container handlers and everything, because that's one of the reasons why we have to bring in the third party, okay? Because container handling, because these machines are very expensive, maintenance, electricity situation, and so on.
And it's often said government is not a good businessman. I'm going to hold you there. We'll take another break. This is On the Spot. We'll be right back.
The ball as a terminal, I don't lay my hands on the English language question paper. It's only 500,000 euros per person. Una go. Young lady, you can wait. I want to discuss something with you. Please. Okay. As I don't tell you earlier, I get all the question papers there.
Kamala, please stop. Stop.
Your company all corporate. Why you blame me hard to get? Or you want to spend the rest of your life to take this whole exam again?
What about if I stay with you tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 12 o'clock, come meet me. Who's it? Oh, Kaisa, young lady.
Good afternoon, sir.
Look more beautiful and sexy.
Thank you very much, sir.
Wow. Take off your clothes. Wow. Come close to me. I don't tell you now, all the leakages in this, I don't lay my hands on them. I get them all in different subjects.
Yes, sir. I'll go back with you.
Sure, I'm not staying on you. We are the Scorpion Squad from Anti-Corruption Commission. Mister, you're under arrest. Officer, now arrest him. What's your job have you do? Officer? There we go.
We, the teachers them, we will always
be role models. We should never get involved in such a shameful act.
Okay, welcome back. This is On the Spot. And so before going on the break, we spoke a little bit about third party or third factors that affect the cost of clearing goods, in countries. So is it safe to say that to a large extent, for example, how do you call it? I'm forgetting my terms. Okay, well, the country of origin, that's the right word. Country of origin have some sort of a cost that impacts the cost of clearing in Sierra Leone. Does that have a huge impact?
Yeah, that will have some impact, but trying to call it huge.
So it's quite minimal.
Yeah, because the issue here has to do with, in most cases, for most countries, taking export out is really that simple. Export processes, even Israel, export processes are really that simple.
Are they simple in Sierra Leone?
Yeah, simple. What makes them very simple with customs, right? What makes them very difficult is perhaps in some countries where you have you need authorization to do some shipment. Like for example, you want to export diamond here, you need certificate, special authorization. So that is where perhaps you talk about impact on that. And then the other thing is the freight, shipment, transportation, to take your goods out of that country into Sierra Leone. That is actually what is now affecting the people, particularly given the present pandemic and then the China situation. China, before them, most of our importers, they go there. This is summertime. They go there and do their business, do their transaction. But now it's closed, so they do everything online, and that technology has cost as well. So, and when you are not there negotiating these things, the money.
So how do we address some of these issues we've spoken about, so that we can have a favorable impact on the final cost of clearing?
Like which one? The one we have?
Yes, I mean in Sierra Leone, how can we better address some of those issues?
One thing that we've always discussed, and then we doing our best, particularly within the NRA, to see how we can influence the order to achieve, is what we call this single window. Single window is just a very simple technology where you interface, you have your systems talking to each other and doing businesses within that system. And then in some countries, they even allow one payment. Because payment of these charges, fees and charges also do affect. For example, you've paid your duties and what to NRA, and you go down to Bolori, and Bolori say, oh, you've accrued some rent. You have to pay me the next 20 million or so. Even where you've paid, say, 200, 300 million to NRA, I mean, Bolori is not going to make the container available to you. By the way, they have to make it available to customs for scanning. They have to make it available to customs for physical examination, inspection. And before they make it available again to your agent, to the transporter, to take it out. So if you haven't paid that money, even where you've paid all of that one, you are stuck in there.
So how can we unify some of this payment processes?
This is what we'll say. First of all, let's get all of the process on one platform.
Is that very difficult to do? Why are we still not yet there?
It is not very difficult, but it is challenging. because you are talking about an ICT environment, and then most of these businesses haven't got the money to buy the software and maintain those software that will allow those processes. Some of them do have some form of standalone systems with software and so on, but then they haven't got the capacity again, because now presently hooking on the custom system, you need internet. So what most nations have done, like small economies like Togo, Benin, is that they've created some form of single window. Single window doesn't mean you have the national single window where every key player, even including the political governance, are supposed to be part of it. But here, for clearance at least, we are talking about a port community single window or a custom clearance single window, where those key players that I have named, like for example the shipping company, if I want to have my delivery order, I wouldn't have to go there and get my delivery order, pick that one by hand, do payment, and go out there. So what we need, if we have something like an e-payment system, that is what most nations are doing. They create an e-payment system, link them up to this system. So even with your mobile money, I've seen that one in Malawi, that's Kpana Conteh. People paying just, well, they have an e-payment system where with your mobile money, they pay their taxes and so on, and they just follow up until when the goods are out of customs control area, they pick them up, right? So those are some of the technology. That is why the customs these days, that's the emphasis.
So I know that there are still plans of reform in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Is any of them geared towards addressing some of these issues?
That is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying now. That what we are doing come next week or before September, we'll be interfacing with the ITS, the Destination Inspection Company, so that once you submit your document to them, the clean report of finding, it gets to customs. Okay? Now it comes to customs system, and then we are working with Bolori to ensure that the issue that has to do with the terminal delivery order and a whole lot of other things, when you don't have to go back to customs. When you get your TDO, come back to customs, or from customs, you go to Bolori. So whatever they do, we do at this end, they get it in real time. And whatever they do at that end, we get it in real time.
Now, how soon do you think this process may kick off?
That is what I'm saying.
How soon will it kick off and become operational?
We have to ensure we particularly with the post-release, with the terminal operator, and the pre-clearance that has to particularly do with the CVC, we have to ensure that we do that one before end of September, because the project ends September. And so if we don't do that, we are in trouble. We'll have to do it.
And if this is done, how much of a saving do you think this would have on the cost of importation?
Yeah, again, I won't put money.
No, just give like a percentage.
I'll talk about savings in terms of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Time and the fraudulent things that are associated with this document.
So it's not going to have any financial benefits?
It's going to have financial benefit. The financial benefit is the time. Because as I said, in the case of your container, if you are given a grace period of 5 days and you want to get your containers out within that 5 days, so the back and forth between Bolori and customs will no longer be there. So it means when you are going through the customs system, whatever is happening, the sooner your exit or release is being created, Bolori will have it. Okay? And then they in turn will get your TDO, and then you now go for validation of your work.
So for individuals who are not importers per se, maybe someone just wants to buy goods from, for example, China at a cheaper cost. Maybe they are undergoing some construction. So in this case, it's a one-off. is there a process that takes such individuals through on what they should expect? Is there any access to resource information to individuals to say this and this is what is required, or this are the institutions or the individuals or the agents that you may need to liaise with to help you go through the process more effectively and efficiently? Is it available?
Yes, information is there, but the whole thing here is, if I got you very well, is that at customs, as long as you are an importer, you are an importer, whether that's your first time or what. And unfortunately, there is no tariff for first timer and what. The tariff is the same, right? The disadvantage you will have as a first-time importer, is that your ability, even before you bring in your goods, to negotiate things like your freight and so on. So once you get there, the system treats you the same way. Now, requesting for agent services, the agents are there. Okay, the only thing we can advise is that get a license, an NRA license agent. Yeah. Because if there are problems, we can locate them. Okay? But what is happening as the key is that some agents are not licensed. You have, we call them briefcase. They stand
so how is it possible then that they are still allowed to operate?
Yeah, it's not a matter of we allow them to operate. It's a matter of, for example, if you are licensed, that is how sometimes the insincerity is. You are licensed, you haven't got enough clients, and my brother out there has a client, and then he will come to you and say, please allow me to use your platform. Right. So that
obviously impacts the cost.
That is it, because you are now going through, instead of one third party, you are now going through several agents. And there are people who love it that way. Well, I won't say they love it that way, because there are some people, even where you say these people are not registered and licensed, say, I trust them.
Okay. So quickly, just for clarity purpose, what are some of the key financial obligations that importers are required to make in terms of maybe, obviously there are different types of payments. What are the key payments that are required?
Yeah, in terms of taxes, I will first start with that one, because that is what I'm employed to do.
Yes.
Okay, partly employed to do. In case of the taxes, you have the import duty. Of course, you must have been told that that one is an indirect. Of course, we collect indirect taxes. Taxes will levy on the goods. So you have your import duty, and then the import duty are being levied, with the exception of alcohol. They are being levied on the ad valorem, that is the value of your goods. So you have percentages being approved by the parliament. Okay, so for example, they will say, with this pen, it is 20%. For these, say, iPhone or what phone or phone in general, it is 10%. That those rates are being legislated, and they are in public domain for you to see.
Right.
Now, that is the same thing for, and then the other tax we collect GST, import GST, right? That is going for 15%. With the case of import duty rate, it depends on the kind of good, the type of good.
Right.
Okay? But for GST, it is the same, flat 15%. And by legislative provisions, there are certain goods that we should not collect GST on at the point of entry. And then we have what we call income tax, the withholding tax, right? Now, these two taxes, the GST and the withholding tax, these are taxes you can reclaim, depending on your tax, what they call input. When you can claim them, right? Now, for those you cannot claim, the import duty, and then the ECOWAS levy. ECOWAS levy, that's an ECOWAS protocol, just a protocol, right? Saying that each and every country, for the financing of the commission there, I mean, countries have to levy 0.5%. That one also is fixed for goods that are coming out of the sub-region, the West Africa sub-region. So that is it. Now, those are the things, but then we also levy excise taxes. Excise on tobacco, but those are consumption taxes. Those are actually there to control consumption of those goods. Okay? Like tobacco, alcohol, and then now we have on board juice for the sugar level, and there's also some pressure to bring on board the beverage like the soft drink, but that has not happened yet because of social situation. I mean, government, you have to, because you also, in as much as sometimes, particularly for excise, the decision around excise is not more of revenue. Sometimes it's more of either you want to protect some of the goods that are being manufactured within locally. You want to protect those industries, and then sometimes you want to protect your population. You want a healthy population, so you levy all of those rates. So we do collect that one, excise on import. Apart from that, now when you go to the other agencies, one of the first thing they pay is it has to do with the delivery order. You pay for your delivery order, and then if you are lucky, your container is here within their grace period, then you will not pay. You only pay for container deposit, what they call caution fee and then deposit fee, because that is their own business. They want to protect the container, the container, right? And then you now go to the DI company. The DI company is also ad valorem. You pay, I think now is 0.7. Before then it was 1%. But I think with this new company, 0.7 of the FOB value of your goods. And that is it. Then you pay for your scanner. The scanning fee for 40-foot container, I think 600, and the other one. So that is what you pay to the private people.
So quickly, as we round up, for people needing more information on how to go on these processes, on what they should expect in terms of charges, percentages, how can they go about that?
In the case of NRA, you have the NRA web, right, where you go there and then see some of these charges. Now, for other agencies, they also have websites where you go and get most of this information.
Right.
But these people are competing. So sometimes even with
they hide their costs.
That is it. That is it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kpana, for joining me here on the show. It's been very interesting and quite insightful as well. I hope it's just sort of giving people a bit of an understanding as to some of the factors that come into play when it comes to the cost of importing to Sierra Leone. So I guess maybe they should just sort of force us as a nation and as a people to become exporters, so that we as well can control a number of these factors. And obviously, I think that would make absolute sense. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It has been a pleasure being with you, and it has been very interesting.
Thank you so much. Coming up next are my final words. In my final words, there has been a lot of growth and transformations over the years at the National Revenue Authority that has enabled it to increase on its revenue collection. Its current drive to digitalize a large portion of its tax collection system promises to be a game changer that will not only bring on board eligible taxpayers into the system, but also reduce human interaction in the payment process, thus leading to less avenues for acts of corruption to occur, either on the part of the taxpayer or the tax collector. Emphasis now has to be placed on educating the taxpayers on the various types of taxes that they are to pay and the processes involved in order to further increase compliance. Like discussed in our previous episode, there needs to be an expansion of the avenues for tax collection so as to create chances to further reduce tax burden on the private sector. I must reiterate that we cannot develop Sierra Leone or hold our government accountable in the delivery of the basic social amenities that we require if we fail to play our role by providing the needed revenue government needs by paying our taxes. I continue to thank our partners, the National Revenue Authority, NRA, and the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC, for supporting us to bring in you this amazing discussions and every other amazing discussions that we have had in this season. Thanks to you as well for watching always. We'll love to hear from you on our various social media handles via email at info@onthespotwithstella.com or through our website www.onthespotwithstella.com. 30 episodes later, we have almost come to the end of season 2, which will be ending next week. So please don't miss next week's final episode that will be drawing down the curtains on season 2. So till then, when I'll be back on your screen, remain fabulous.